A very pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon. And we have an action-packed event for you here today because it's just a little bit of a busy week on the campus of James Madison. And it is indeed for the head coach of the Dukes on football, as well as Mike Houston is here. He will kick things off. The Dukes hosting Villanova 3:30 on Saturday. Following Coach Houston, we'll invite Justin Januzzi of the Duke Club. It is Duke Club Week here on campus as well. So we have some information regarding that. And we're going to wrap things up with Athletics Director Jeff Bourne. He will be on hand to talk a little bit about the impact that College Game Day can have on James Madison University. We've already seen it once, and we're fortunate to see it a second time. So without further delay, as the Dukes face Villanova, let's bring in the head coach of the Dukes, Mike Houston. Mike.
Thanks a lot, and good to be back here at O'Neill's again this week. Thanks to Mo and Tim for hosting us, and a lot going on around this week. I do want to mention two things before we get into Villanova. The first, as Kurt mentioned, it is Duke Club Week here at JMU, and for those of you that don't know, the Duke Club, sponsors all of our athletic scholarships for our athletes at JMU, and so certainly it's the lifeblood of our athletic department, and something that's very, very important. I, as well as many of the people in this room, are active Duke Club members and support our student athletes, and I would just encourage all fans and alumni of JMU to get involved with the Duke Club. So that's the first item. Second item I did want to mention, with October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and if many of you remember from last year, I spoke, this is something that's very close to Amanda and I and our family, as the godmother of our children, Owen and Reed. Ms. Kimberly Fisher passed away 2 years ago after a battle with breast cancer, so it's something that's an important cause to us, as well as many of the members of our team. So for the month of October, we will be wearing a pink ribbon on the back of our helmet, just in recognition of this cause, and we've talked about it as a team, and that's what we feel is appropriate to bring awareness to this and to the efforts to rid it. So I wanted to mention those two items before we get into Villanova. But now on with the game this week. Certainly it's a big week for our program. It was really good to have the bye week last week. Thought we used it well. Players practiced very hard. I thought they had great focus when we were out there. We also took some time to get some guys healed up and rested up, and I thought they did a good job of taking advantage of that and taking care of that. Came back with an energetic practice on Sunday afternoon, and then we're preparing for our normal game week practice prep starting this afternoon in full pads. So a great challenge coming in here Saturday in a very, very good Villanova team. I think they're ranked 11th in the nation in the most recent polls. And when you look at them on film, they look very much like the Villanova teams of the past. They are a big, strong, physical, disciplined defensive team. Very, very sound on the special teams. Have been made big plays. Last week had 2 huge plays on special teams. Have done that consistently throughout the year. And then an offense that is a great complement to their defense with a punishing running attack. And a quarterback that does a great job of distributing the football and getting it where it needs to be. So it'll be a tremendous challenge for us. I think it's going to be a game where we'll have to play our best game of the year in order to have a chance to win. And it's one where we really, and I'm gonna stress to our team, we've got to consistently do the things that good football teams do this Saturday throughout the ball game in order to pull it off. So should be an exciting day. Bridgeforth Stadium is completely sold out. And this is complete as I've seen it, so it should be the largest crowd that's been there since I've been the head coach at JMU, and should be a great game day environment for our players and for the fans and alumni. So with all that being said, questions about Villanova?
Coach Dave Thomas, ESPN Radio Harrisonburg, JMU Sprint Broadcast Network. You've seen an odd front a couple of times this year,
right,
but they bring you a 3-3-5 stack. How is it different, and then how playing the odd fronts already, does that give you maybe somewhat of an advantage of what you're going to face on Saturday?
Well, we've seen a lot of 3-4 stuff so far this year, so it is a little bit different. Certainly facing it last year, gave us some insight into how they might try to defend us. But what they do very, very well. And, you look, they lead the conference in rushing defense. They're I think they're second in the country in rushing defense. So they do a great job of defending the run. And at the same time, you look up and, they're in a max drop situation a lot of times too against the pass. So I think that, facing an odd front, having our center covered several games this year is great preparation for this game. But, this is a completely different animal than some of the 3-4 stuff we've seen previously this year. So we've got to have a great week of practice in order to be prepared for Saturday.
Tommy Keeler, Northern Virginia Daily. Let's talk a little bit about their running game. What are some things that kind of make them so tough to stop with the running game? With their running game.
Villanova's running game. I just think, you look at their offensive line, big physical offensive line. I think that we're going to have to be very disciplined with fitting our gaps and fitting them aggressively. Not only being in the right spot, but we're going to have to be very physical at the point of contact. The running back's an all-CAA player, and, much like when we face Maine, we just cannot give him the creases because he does a good job of getting downhill and taking advantage of any daylight he sees. So, you put that in with the fact that, they have a great play-action passing game off of the run game, and it's really going to put a lot of stress on our linebackers and secondary to be able to fit everything correctly on the run at the same time, be disciplined enough not to give up anything in the play-action pass.
David Guzman, TV3 in Harrisonburg. You mentioned how last year's game against Villanova was kind of the turning point for that season. Can you elaborate on some of the growth that you've seen from the players who were in that game that obviously are contributing this year?
Well, I just think that game was the first game where we had to really lean on our special teams and defense to win the ball game. We were with Brian when he went out. We struggled a little bit there on offense. We got going in the second half. Really getting behind Khalid and running him a lot in the second half. But that game prepared us to win as a complete team because and everybody knows the team I inherited was a dynamic offensive team, but did not play very well defensively and could not win a ball game where their offense did not go out and score, 40-plus points. So, I thought that game was the beginning of kind of the evolution of us becoming a complete ball team because now you look at us and the guys go out each week, and at the end of the day, they want to play lights out in all three phases each week, and they're ticked off if they don't. But at the end of the day, the most important thing for them is to win the ball game however they've got to win it. And I think they've really embraced all that so that they know that if there's a day where we're not as productive on one phase, that the other phase is going to pick it up, or the other two phases are going to pick it up. So to me, that was a great game for us as far as growing up and growing together as a team.
Greg Medea, DNR. Just when you look at their offense, they do have a freshman quarterback who's filling in for Zach.
Right.
Will you try to pressure him like you pressured Maine's freshman quarterback into some mistakes earlier this season?
Well, I think the big thing is going to be being great on first and second down. And if we can be great on first and second down and put their offense in a 3rd and 7+ yardage situation on 3rd down, then it gives us the ability to pressure if we want to play coverage if we want to. And the more we can mix it up and give him looks that consistently aren't the same or might cause confusion, I think that could be the key to us being productive and getting off the field. It all goes back to getting off the field, getting our offense the ball back.
Is that what you think has kind of led you guys to have, I guess, bigger sack numbers and tackle for loss numbers this year? Because they're way up through 5 games compared to where they were a year ago.
Well, to a degree, but I think the biggest thing is just we actually have players that, number one, understand what to do, understand their role, and are disciplined enough and committed enough to everybody else that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. You look at, a year ago this time, week 6, our kids knew what to do and they understood what to do, but we still were battling a little bit of I know I'm supposed to do this, but I may do this, which was the thing that we inherited when we got here. When we got here, it was a catastrophe in that, you never knew what was going to happen. They may or may not do what they're coached to do on a given snap. So I think you fast forward to where we are right now, consistently we do what we're supposed to do. And I think that anytime you do that, you're going to have success. And so you see our guys getting in good situations because of doing their job, and then that gives them the opportunity to make big plays. And big plays don't come from them doing anything just extraordinary. It comes from them just doing what they're supposed to do down after down. That's what big plays come from.
Coach, sort of taking his question a step further about their offense, it seems with all their injuries, the offensive line is the most experienced group that they have right now. What do you see in looking at that group, to Greg's point, trying to create pressures to confuse them a bit to get to their quarterback? What do you see when you look at the group up front?
Well, I mean, I think that you look at the group up front, they get experience, they've got ability, they've got size, they're very physical, they're well coached. Same thing with the running backs. And, you know, that's the key to the Villanova's offense, always has been. They're going to come out and they're going to try to run the ball effectively and throw off of that. And then they've got talented receivers, and the quarterback has done a good job the last 2 ball games of playing within himself. So the whole key for us is going to be, you know, being able to match the physicality of their offensive line and be disciplined in our run defense.
I know you've addressed the topic of game day twice now this week. If you can just take us into maybe the conversation that you had with some of the senior leaders on the team that led to that decision.
Well, I mean, I think the big thing with them, I don't have to sell them on anything because they experienced it 2 years ago. And they've got a sour taste in their mouth from the experience the last time game day was here. The other thing we lean on is our experience from the national championship game last year. And, you know, our whole focus is 100% about Villanova because that's the only thing that we have impact on. And we're, you know, the players, they're not fans. And they will be one day. They'll be alumni one day. They'll be fans one day. But right now, their job is to play the football game. So they are focused 100% on doing what we are supposed to do this weekend, and that is try to find some way to beat Villanova.
Can you talk a little about Clayton Cheatham and Nick Carlton and kind of how they've done it at the tight end position and progressed?
Well, I think that both of them have progressed very well this year. You know, Nick's a guy that played a good bit last year, so had a little bit of experience coming in. I think he's continued to develop. I think that both of them bring, you know, something a little bit different. You know, Nick's a guy that's athletic enough to split out wide, and, you know, we can get in a 2x2, you know, spread set with him in a slot and still have a great matchup on a safety or a tight end. We feel like we can win. And at the same time, you know, he can get in line or get in the backfield and be that, you know, effective blocker or effective receiver out of the backfield. You know, Clayton is a true freshman that's playing very well, I think, for a guy that's, you know, 5 ball games into his college career. And especially a guy that played quarterback in high school. He didn't even play tight end. But the one thing you see with him is much of the same things you saw with his brother Dean. You know, he is a very physical football player, and he's a tough guy now. And he has athletic ability, and he plays with a lot of emotion. So I think both of them are doing great. I think they're going to be big parts of our offense throughout the year this year and hopefully for many years to come.
Coach, talking about the defense for Villanova, watching the main game, it seemed they really pursued the ball very well. It's hard maybe on film to gauge how their defensive speed stacks up to some of the teams you faced this year. But how do they compare, if you can draw a comparison, and how much pressure does that put on your guys at the point of attack to maintain their blocks and and control their blocking lane, so to speak, so you can allow your offense to run like it should?
Well, the big thing is they're a well-coached unit. You know, it's a group that's older and experienced, and they play well together. And much like the things that I talk about that has led to our success defensively, it's the exact same things for them. You know, their guys understand the scheme. They play within the scheme. You know, they do what they're supposed to do down after down, and then they play with great physicality, and they run to the football. So they're a well-coached defensive unit, and they're going to give us problems on Saturday. The stress for us is to execute at a high level offensively. Make sure that we're assignment sound, we attack at the point of contact, that we do a great job of staying on our blocks, giving our backs room. And, you know, it's probably going to be, you know, rough going as far as running the ball consistently throughout the day. And that's why we've got to just stay after it. You know, we can't put ourselves in negative situations, whether it's a penalty or busted plays, things like that. We've got to make sure that we do a good job of staying, you know, in line as far as down and distance-wise, you know, getting ourselves in second, medium, third, and short situations consistently throughout the day.
When you look at Villanova's defensive front, obviously they lost Passanio from last year, the second-round pick, and another starting defensive end. Are you surprised at all at how there really hasn't been a drop-off between last year's group and this year's group?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, maybe they don't have, you know, the two just elite talents that they had last year, but at the same time, the guys that they have are playing at a high level. So I think all three of the down guys, you know, they're good size. They're not monsters, you know, not 320 or anything like that, but they're good size, but they play really, really hard. They're very physical. They run really well, And then the linebackers, 58 and 33, are really talented players. Shockley is maybe the best linebacker in our league, if not the best. He's one of the best, and he's been very active and very productive. But they just do a good job of playing together, and they all understand where they fit. They play at a high level, so they're just they're playing every bit as good this year as I think they did a year ago.
Coach, you mentioned yesterday that one of the reasons why you took this job was because this is a hidden gem in college football. I'm wondering, was JMU's 2015 game day appearance, did that play any role at all when you were thinking about taking this job?
No. I mean, I remember it. I mean, I forget where we were at that day, but I remember seeing it, just a glimpse of it on TV that morning, but I think I paid attention to it for about 5 seconds, so no.
Coach, let's talk about special teams. You talked about how they played, how well prepared they were. In a game like this, where two very good defensive teams who want to run the football, offenses, maybe, as you said, a tough day going around. How do you handle a special teams preparation plan knowing that that may be where the game is won?
Right. We've got to be sound. We put a huge emphasis last week on our special teams during the off week and spent more time than we typically do, just shoring up some things and getting better at some things. And so that emphasis will continue throughout this week. But we've just got to be sound. That's the big thing. We just got to go out and do a great job of doing our job and doing it aggressively and executing at a high level. And if we do that, then we'll be successful on special teams. But Villanova's sitting there saying the same thing. That's why to me this matchup is probably going to come down to who makes the fewest mistakes. And who can capitalize on the other's mistakes as to who wins the ball game.
A lot has been put out on social media about getting the crowd to the game day site to be there for that. But you've got a 25,000 stadium. It's a 12th man that could really be a difference maker in this football game. For the fans who are lucky enough to have tickets, what is your message to them, what you need out of them on Saturday when things kick off?
Well, I can promise you that our team will be ready to play. And they will feed off of our crowd. So I would just encourage our crowd to have fun, enjoy the game, and be as loud and as vocal as they can be and be involved in the game. So hopefully we can give them a lot of things to cheer about throughout the afternoon, and they can be as loud and boisterous and put as much pressure on our opponent as they possibly can.
Anything else from members of the media? All righty.
Okay.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Looking forward to Saturday. See you there. Go Dukes.